About the beginning and Emily's monologue. First of all, I do not like the monologues of Season 2 and 3 because I think they are mostly redundant. In Season 3 they found at the beginning a new theme with Father Paul and all those religious metaphors. But in Season 2 there were few monologues that were really outstanding. Like this one, they could have made it more emotional by showing Kara's perspective. But instead they are again focusing on the Graysons in their guilt. About Treadwell threatening to expose Emily and Amanda. I like how Emily reacts to Mason's accusations. Frankly, she should be very worried that Mason is digging up her past with Fauxmanda. But instead she plays it cool, and after knowing that Mason thinks the two are more than intimate friends, she can just laugh because he is just so wrong and cannot see what is right before him. I also like that she dares him to write the truth. I think she still wanted him to help her clear her father's name after he failed to do the right thing in Season 1. About Kara and Victoria. It is funny how only the presence of this woman scares Victoria to death. Cause the Graysons clearly had the opportunity to just let her disappear. But I think it is the unpredictability of her mental disorder that scares Victoria. Like with most insane people, you cannot predict what Kara will do and what are her motives. And since the Graysons were involved in framing her husbands twice, Kara has no reason to be that friendly towards Victoria. About Emily Aiden and the initiative. I always hated the fact that they had to explain so much in Season 2. It is never good when a plot is too complicated and you have to tell the audience why this or that is happening. So again, I did not at all enjoy this whole initiative plot. I get that Emily needs to lure him out and more information about that organization. But I still do not think it was a good idea to put up all those subplots that were entangled with the initiative. The only thing I like in this scene how Aiden tries to comfort her again and show Emily that he is truly there for her if she lets him. And his sentence, "I know you wanted more," sums everything up high, and surely the audience thinks about the storyline with her mother. About Conrad and Victoria united against the initiative. I know it is far more plausible that they both are actually afraid of the initiative. But after I have first seen the finale of this season with Conrad's big reveal. Spoiler alert. I cannot watch these scenes with Conrad and Victoria without thinking that he is just playing a role to keep Victoria at his side. He surely would be that ruthless, and it would explain why he is that calm. While Victoria is always freaking out when he talks about the initiative. I know he deals with them much longer, but I cannot believe that he would be that calm and resigned if he truly had to fight for his and his family's life. About the Ryan brothers again. I like that they split them up and make the younger one, Nate, be more ruthless. It shows that for Kenny there was another way, and that you can choose to change your direction and come to terms with your past. A significant observation for Emily's core story, and something which could have been explored more if the Ryans were not just another side plot in a cramped Season 2. About Daniel and Kara. It is just so inappropriate that he asks Kara about this. He is so focused on withdrawing Conrad out of Grayson Global and take his seat that he forgets how to behave like a decent person. About Emily's gift for Victoria. I must admit they are very good with consistency and references to significant moments of the past in Revenge. I like that they remind us of the very unpolite scene between Victoria and Emily in the finale, in which Victoria showed Emily that her engagement present was empty because she always knew that the future of Emily and Daniel was non-existent as well. I am sure Emily requites it with another empty present for Victoria's non-existent future. About Nolan and Aiden. I know there has been a similar scene in the original story where some of Monte Cristo's closest friends had to sacrifice in order to keep his identity hidden. So the plot idea was not something that hit me unexpected. But I always hated that Nolan and Fauxmanda were the ones who had to suffer the most from Emily's revenge ender. I know startups come and go, but Nolan Corp seems really something Nolan worked hard for and is proud of. Why else would he call it his life work? And now he has to sacrifice it in order to help Emily get through with her revenge. They made it about her safety to show us that here is more at stake, but I think Aiden just makes this up in order to get Nolan persuaded there is no other way. Remember, he was trained by Takeda and is at least on the same level manipulative as Emily, if not more, when it comes to Nolan. Because Nolan is not his closest friend, I think Emily would have never demanded such a thing from Nolan. Aiden just goes the easy and fastest way and gives a damn about Nolan. 'Cause he is not that attached to him yet like Emily already is. Anyway, I like Gabriel Mann's performance here. His groan and the theatrics with the check really gives the scene its weight and importance. And I really love how Nolan plays the worried big brother, threatening and asking Aiden what his objectives are with Emily. About Mason and Fauxmanda. This scene is just so funny. It shows again Mason's naivety and how bad his insight into human nature is. He is really not a good journalist. But it was nice to see that Fauxmanda was the one who tricked people and put up an act this smart. The two Amandas are not that different after all. Mason is so eager to dig up a big secret that is selling a new bestseller that he sees no reason to not believe Amanda. About the scenery, the only thing that really made me overcome this side plot with the Ryan brothers are the nice shots of the marina. In Season 1 they only had this poster wall and some shots with the boat Amanda. But in Season 2 they really took advantage of the boat in the harbour. This beautiful scenery of boats and the sun-glittering water really gave you this vacation feeling by watching those scenes. As if you would see French Riviera. This whole sequence with Mason was something I enjoyed very much. Surely this scene is one of my favorites from Season 2. Again, Fauxmanda shows what she is willing to do when she is pushed against the wall, and of course what she is able to do in order to protect Emily. I know she is more reason than ever to protect Emily because now she is also protecting her little family with Jack and baby Carl. But as Emily pointed out earlier, it is such a stupid idea to attack Mason. The best possible outcome would be that she just hurts him and scares him to death so he will not tell anyone. But if he turned out dead like Frank in Season 1, Fauxmanda would have lost her family and her future with this fault. Though I did not like that she obviously does not learn from her mistakes in the past. It is really accurate how they portray these two UV girls. Because this violent streak is something both Amandas have in common. And what made Amanda end up in jail in the first place. I will always like how Mason is thinking about book sales. He is really a shady and greedy person. And the title Sociopathic Socialite would have been a real bestseller, I think. Especially with the juicy lesbian backstory that was already in his mind. And the subtext with the internal joke about Emily was just hilarious. However, I was happy how it turned out. It is far more interesting when Mason is alive and gets to know their biggest secret. I think that was the best idea of Season 2. Revealing Emily's true identity to two more people. That made Season 3 and all the possible new conflicts far more interesting. And I really liked how frightened Mason is by these two women. I think since Season 1 this was the first time that we saw how dangerous Fauxmanda and Emily can truly be. As I said before, after all they are both former criminals, and as for Emily, she is still committing crimes if it serves her revenge agenda. The black shirt and the black eyeliner makes Emily appear even more frightening. She really feels like a sociopath in this scene with her grin. And I loved how they switched the mood between the cut. Now she is again this destroyed and deceived little girl that cannot forget nor forgive the deeds of the Graysons in their conspirators. About Mason telling Kara the truth. Of course there had something to go terribly wrong. I must admit it was not a bad idea to involve Mason, but Emily should have gone with him instead of playing him like a puppet like she did with Fauxmanda. then he would have probably stick to the plan instead of telling Kara something with which she could not cope. From his point of view, I can totally understand that he told her the truth about David and the Graysons. Mason desperately wants to calm his conscience, and since he knows Amanda cannot forgive him, he turns to the one person who might can. But as always, if you want to do something good, he just makes it worse. By the way, I like that Nolan is involved again. Seems forever ago that he helped Emily with her revenge agenda, and I was looking forward to see him more involved, as the initiative gets closer to him as well. About Kara trying to execute the Graysons. I know she is unstable, but even for a psychotic patient this seems to be a big overreaction, since she seemed not that much attached to David anymore. And after seeing season 1 and 2 close after another, it seems a little bit repetitious, since Tyler threatened everyone at Daniel's birthday party in episode 11. And with him it was the same problem, that he got violent because his medication had run out, too like Kara's. And again, it is so annoying that Emily has full surveillance on the Graysons and still cannot get anything to put them away for good. What was nice in this scene is how Conrad tried to protect Victoria. It really shows that he does not want her to die, cause he loves her and wants to be with her literally till the end of his life. It was fun to see how he tries to distract Kara while Victoria is his accomplice and tries to get a hold on Kara with her own gun. The two show again how good they work together as a team. More fun was to see how elegant Emily framed Mason again. This time her takedown was so elaborate that it took 2 episodes to work, and that she used the flight recorder to frame Mason for the same crime as David was a nice reminiscence about Aiden saving the day for Emily and Kara. It was nice to see that Aiden drops everything to help Emily get Kara out of that mess Mason set in motion. He was just so close at getting in touch with someone of the initiative, but he does not blink for a second. But the whole sequence was just so staged and unrealistic. First, that Kara could disable the surely high-level security system of Grayson Manor that easily. Second, that she tried to execute the Graysons and was prepared with blindfolds and a gun. Where did she get all that stuff when she was already on her flight away? They just needed the blindfold so that Aiden's cover was not blown. And finally, why should a confession under those circumstances and before a mental unstable person like Kara be of any worth? The writers just made this up so they had a good reason to send her away instead of killing her off. But it was cheap, and I am still not over it that they never let her come back. Even Emily herself indicates that they could meet again when everything has calmed down. Spoiler alert. Why the hell did Kara not come back after Emily revealed herself publicly in season 4, or at least at the season finale? About Kara leaving. It is now that I see both in the car why I always thought the two are so similar. Emily's new blonde locks really match Kara's hairstyle. They really look like mother and daughter. This goodbye was so sad. Especially because Emily never got the chance to tell her who she really is. Spoiler alert. I know season 4 was all about her relationship with her dad, but it would have been nice to see her reunited with her mother again, since she is still alive and could be helpful by coping with the trauma and the aftermath of Emily's revenge agenda. And it is even more sad that Emily is still rejecting Aiden. He is such a trooper in this case and always tries to be there for her even if she does not want him to. About Emily and Mason again. I like how she is toying with him, and I assume that she might always had in mind that he could rewrite David's story or write a new book about her. Emily really sees herself as the hero in this story, otherwise she could not do all the things she is doing throughout her revenge agenda. And Mason would have surely written a hell of a book with Amanda as his heroine. That could have been a nice ending and full circle for the reboot, as the original was an actual book. But it is much to ask of Mason going to prison and waiting for Emily to get him free again. I always thought in season 3 and later in season 4 that Emily underestimated Mason and overestimated her influence on him. Sure, Mason is vain and greedy and it flatters him to be popular and center of attention. But he also likes living the life of high society and getting not only attention of the media but of real people who are admiring him. That is something he cannot have in prison, and life in prison is hard. Emily knows that all too well. So how could she think that he would sit still and wait over a year till her revenge is over? Spoiler alert. And after she revealed herself in season 4, she must have known that Mason would be pissed. 'Cause that was his pitch for the book. She stole him his big surprise and the most unique selling point for his new book. Anyway, I love that he is after Father Paul, the only one of the conspirators who knows the truth about Emily. And Father Paul did not even know that she was Amanda. So Emily revealed very much of herself before Mason. I think that is something that flattered him the most. That Emily was this open and honest to him. And that he calls her Miss Clarke instead of Amanda is some kind of nice. In a way, everyone who knows her real identity, Aiden, Nolan, Fauxmanda, and spoiler alert, later Jack sees her like this little girl and calls her Amanda. Of course they are more intimate with her than Mason. But it also shows how he acknowledges that the little girl he knew has grown up. I think he is the only one who sees the real Amanda Clarke. Even though, or maybe because he knows the little girl and this grown-up woman and all the differences between those two versions of Amanda. This scene with Conrad and Victoria was nice. He really cares for her. If one thing was touching and sweet of Conrad, it was how he shows his affection for Victoria in season 2. That makes it even more cruel when he reveals to her the truth at the end of this season. I do not know, but for my taste the character development in season 2 was not as good as in season 1, 2. Daniel goes back and forth with trying to make it better than his parents and following in their footsteps, and Conrad seems to be afraid of the initiative like Victoria and seems to try to protect her in 1 minute only to screw her over in the next. But what I really loved in this episode is the first kiss between Emily and Aiden, if you do not count the flashback in. And I really love how they took advantage of her veranda again. In season 1, Daniel and Emily shared the first kiss on the veranda, but they mostly showed the two actors by zooming in on their faces, of course to make the scene more intimate. Here they really show the scope of the veranda. It is just a nice frame for the two. Maybe they waited so long to get the two together because Emily was too distracted with her mother. They definitely waited so long to bring the initiative plot forward because they wanted Kara gone first. So it will get more confusing and bad in the next couple of episodes till we reach the end of season 2.